This workshop will be on open source GIS tools and data. My name is Doris Scott, and I am the social science data curator and the GIS librarian. I meant to flip that, but anyway. So in data services, we essentially bring some kind of organization for your data. So we go from having it being messy to clean data, as you see here. And here is the data services team, which includes Jennifer Moore, who is the head of data services, then me, and then my coworkers, Molly Webb, who is a GIS programmer, and Bill Winston, who is our GIS analyst. And just something I wanted everyone to put on their radar. We do have a Washington University Geospatial Working Group. It was formed in 2021 and is an informal collection of faculty and staff from every school at the university, including university capacity, building university capacity in geospatial science. The group goals are to create an intellectual hub for synergizing geospatial activities, to enhance the geospatial research infrastructure, to advance teaching and workforce development in the geospatial arena, and to deepen partnerships with geospatial institutions in St. Louis and the national geospatial industry, including government. So if you're interested in this group, please contact Bill Winston at woostill.edu. So just to give a schedule of events that's also going on this week. So you are here today for the open source GIS tools and data workshop. Tomorrow will be the QGIS workshop, which will be conducted by Jennifer Moore. And then on Thursday will be the Geodesy workshop, which Bill Winston and I will be doing. And then we will have an open source geospatial panel with a variety of people who are involved in the creation of geospatial open source software, and then people who use this software for their own task. And let me check the chat before. Thank you, Bill and Molly, for that. So the workshop overview is as follows. First, we're going to talk about what is open source, and then open source GIS tools. What is open data portals, and then open data portals, and we'll do GIS tools demo with the St. Louis County Open Data Portal and Geoda, which I will explain a little bit more later. So we use this term open source all the time, but what exactly does it mean? So open source means that the software can be freely distributed. So that means that any party can give, or they can just give this software away as on its own, or software distribution as part of the software distribution of other software, and it does not require a royalty or other fee for sale. And then also another component of open source is that the source code must be well publicized somewhere, and it should be easily obtainable. And then also, like, unclear source code is not allowed as well. And then also another component of open source is derived works. So one should be able to have modifications for derived works, and they must be distributed under the same terms as the license of the original software. And then even though that's the case, the integrity of the author's source code needs to be kept. So you really need to look at the license when seeing what you can do and cannot do, because the license may restrict source code from being distributed in modified form. only if the license allows for the distribution of patch files with the source code for the purpose of modifying the program at build time. So please make sure to keep that in mind when you're trying to like tinker with some code, because it's really based on the license too. And then also it should allow for no discrimination against persons or groups. Also, there should be no discrimination against fields of endeavor. So just because you don't like someone using your program in a particular instance, you cannot say, hey, you can't, like if I'm using it for a business endeavor, you can't say, hey, you can't use this for business purposes. It has to be open. Then also for the distribution of the license, it must apply for everyone. So there shouldn't be like, okay, educators, you can use this license. Okay, business people, you can, let's add a license. It has to be a blanket distribution. And also that means that the license shouldn't be specific to a product itself, or also preclude you from being able to use other software that may or may not be open source with the software. And then finally, license should be technology neutral. So it should be able to just, you can, should be able to use it on many technologies. So you can't just say, oh, it's just used on Windows or something like that. You want it to be like able to be used on a variety of technologies. So now I'm going to talk about open source GIS tools now that we understand what open source is. And I just want to give a caveat that this is not the, I'm just getting you started in terms of showing you what's out there, but this is completely not exhaustive because I'm only showing a few tools. So the first tool, the types of tools I'm going to focus on are GIS software, and then GIS packages for programming languages. Don't know what that was about. So the first one is QGIS. So QGIS is one of the most widely used open source GIS tools out there. Actually, compared to the proprietary software that many of us are familiar with, ESRI, in some areas, actually QGIS is used more than ESRI. And it is because it is free and open source, because ESRI does come at a cost. The nice thing about QGIS is that there's a dedicated group of volunteer developers, and it's regularly updated. And it's available on a variety of platforms, including Mac, Linux, Android, and Windows. And if you want more functionality, you can bring in plugins into QGIS. Now I'm going to talk about Geoda, which I don't know how many people know of Geoda, but if you're into geostatistics, it's a very nifty GIS tool. It is developed and maintained by the Center of Spatial Science at University of Chicago. They have extensive documentation and tutorials on how to use the software. And the nice thing about Geoda is that you can link what the map results to charts of your statistical analysis. And it supports various data formats such as GeoJSON, CSV, and shapefile. So now I'll talk about GIS packages for both R and Python. So actually, as I said before, there's a lot more. Molly did a leaflet workshop yesterday, and that was using JavaScript. But the cool thing about leaflet is that you can also access it through R through two ways, through a package on its own, or through the TMap package, which allows you to either create static maps or dynamic maps. And if you want to do spatial manipulation, such as doing spatial joins or changing the projection of your spatial data, then you can use the SF package. As for Python, if you are familiar with using Python for data analysis purposes, you might know of pandas, in which you can create data tables and do all sorts of analysis. Well, there's GeoPandas, in which that allows you to manipulate spatial, you can import in different types of spatial data and doing spatial data analysis and making maps. And then the SCARTS allows you to deal with GeoJSON or geometric objects as well. So before I move on, are there any questions? I can't see the chat window, so can someone tell me if there's any questions?
Not at the moment, Doris.
Okay, thank you, Molly. So now we're going to talk about open data. So open data is also a word we use a lot, but what does it exactly mean? So this essentially means you can freely get the data, you can freely change the data, and you can share it for any purpose at all. So there's 3 elements of open data, which are availability and access, reuse and distribution, and universal participation. So the data for availability and access, the data must be available. And you should be able to get it by downloading it on the internet, and it should just be convenient to get. It should also allow you to reuse the data set and then also mix it with other data sets and redistribute it if you want. I think if for us GIS professionals, we do a lot of this, and you'll see a lot of open data portals actually do this. And then also universal participation, which means that everybody should be able to use, reuse, and redistribute this data. So again, there should be no discrimination against fields of endeavor. So if I want to use it for business purposes or public health purposes, I should be able to do that. So these 3 aspects makes open data interoperable, which is extremely important in terms of this whole free and open source type of infrastructure. So now I'm going to go over, again, there's so many of these data resources, but I'm going to focus on local and state level data resources and then some national ones. So the first one that might be of interest is the St. Louis City Open Data Portal, in which you can get spatial information about, if you're talking about the context of GIS, like city boundaries, parks, neighborhood and ward boundaries, so on and so forth. And then also the Metropolitan Police Department has, like, they publicize their crime stats. I will say it is kind of hard to get them because they are in PDF, which is not really that friendly of a form. CSV would be better. They do have CSV data, but it's for their hate crimes. So yeah, I think you know, they changed things. So I personally feel like it's a little more difficult to get this kind of data. The next data portal I want to talk about is the St. Louis County Open Data Portal, which is a really well organized data portal in which you can get various data on administrative boundaries, environment, health, schools, and so on. And I'm not sure if you are aware of this one, but this is a relatively new data portal from the St. Louis Regional Data Exchange, which really tries to consolidate all of the various data sources from, say, St. Charles, St. Louis County, the city, the whole St. Louis area. And it's like a one-stop shop. So I highly recommend you check this out if you're trying to look for data region-wide. So you're not just going to, okay, I'll go to St. Louis City for this and then St. Louis County for that. Then you have the East-West Gateway Data Center. They upload the data that they produce as part of their research, and they do a lot of community-based research. And then finally, a highly recommended open data portal for spatial data is the Missouri Data Information Service. It's a very valuable data portal, and probably one of the best that I've, out of my experience using these state clearinghouse type of GIS open data portals is one of the, is really good. So now I'm going to talk about national data sources. So data.gov is a one-stop shop for a lot of US government data. So if you're looking for VA data, I know the VA data has their own data portal, but you can also just look up that data on data.gov as well. Also, the census has a data portal. They did a whole revamping of it, and I believe like 2019. If you have used census data before, you might be familiar of using American Fact Finder. They no longer update that. So you have to use the census data portal to get your data. I forgot to also mention that if you want to get the boundaries, you need to go to the census Tiger files on the census website to get that. The next national data resource that I want to talk about is NHGIS, which is the National Historical Geographic Information System. So this provides easy access to summary tables and time series of population, housing, agriculture, and economic data. And then it also packages it together with GIS boundary files. And the cool thing about this data portal is that it has historical data, as the name mentions, from 1790 to now. And this is administered by IPUMIS, which is the Integrated Public Use Microdata Series, which is the world's largest individual level population database. Next, we have FRED economic data. So it is data from the Federal Reserve in St. Louis, which has a lot of economic data, but also have really cool data visualizations as well. And then if you want labor statistics, feel free to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then also for housing data, you can use the HUD user data sets. And I see there is a question in the chat or something that's popping up.
No, Doris, I was just posting the link again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure thing.
So now we're going to do the open source GIS tutorial. Before that, I just want to have a final call for any questions about anything that I talked about before we go through this. We have plenty of time to go through this hands-on tutorial, which is great. But I just wanted to make sure everybody was good and didn't have any questions. Okay, if not, then so I came up with this short tutorial using Geoda and the St. Louis County Open Data. So the name of the tutorial is called 5 Tasks with Geoda. And this is really touching the iceberg of Geoda. It is a very powerful tool in terms of geostatistics. And just to give a very, very high overview of geostatistics, it differs from classical statistics due to the spatial context. The fact that things that are closer to each other in distance have similar attributes than things that are farther apart. And so Geoda uses this particular idea, and you can run various analysis on it. But we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to doing basic tasks. If you want more information on that, though, please refer to the Geoda documentation, because they do go through, the tutorial goes from the high level, like what we're going to do now, to some of the more specific functions of the software. And I believe Molly or Bill has put the materials of the tutorial in the chat. Okay. So can everyone see this St. Louis County Open Government? Is it showing? Because I think I reshared, I should have reshared my whole screen. Okay, I assume since no one answered, that's a yes. So we're going to skip, like if you're following the tutorial worksheet, the first thing we want to do is, I assume you already download Geoda. I'm going to minimize this. And I have my data folder here. And the data will have your, oops, let me create just a new folder. Delete this. And I'm creating a new folder called data. So the first thing we're going to download are the township and ward boundaries. So there's many ways you can get data in the open data portal. If you know it, you can just type it, but let's just go through some of the functionalities of this data portal. So I'm going to click open data. And then after that, since we are going to need ward and township boundary data, property information. And I am going to scroll down to find it. Hold on one second. I think I thought it was under here. One second. All else fails, just type in townships. I really thought it was under here for some reason. So yeah, if I apologize for that, but I typed in townships in the search window in the search bar, and here is a preview of the actual townships that we will be using. So what I'm going to do is click download. And you have all of these options. And the option that I am going to use is a shapefile. And so it's generating this is not it's not going the way I want it to. I don't know what's going on here. So is there a question in the chat?
Yes, are we supposed to be on this data site and downloading as well, or is this the data that's already been, that's in the link that you emailed us?
There shouldn't be any data in that. I thought I did not share that particular data in there because I wanted everyone to
Okay. So is that yes, that we should be on the site you're on right now and downloading the same info?
Well, as I mentioned before, I would like you to watch what I'm doing
Okay.
first. And then
Okay.
after that, I'm going to give you some minutes to do it because some people, like from one of these workshops, some people cannot do both at the same time. So
Sure.
I want
Okay.
to show first and then, yeah. And if there is issues, like I don't know what's going on with this data portal right now, I will actually put the link to the data, but I am going to, this is also something that can happen sometimes with these data portals. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So I click download, download options. Let's see if this works again. If this does not work again, then I'm gonna try for the next one. I do not understand why this is not working.
Doris, I'll give it a try on my end, and if I can get it to work, I'll post it to the box folder.
Okay. If not, there is a folder that I can also share as well, because I did kind of we know with these data portals that sometimes they're due maintenance. So I actually do have the data and I can share it as well.
We did have some users that have mixed success with downloading. It seems like downloading the previous file seems to be working for
Okay.
folks.
Yeah, the only thing you should download is the shape file. We are not using GeoJSON or KML.
Yeah, but when you were trying to download the shapefile, it said create a new link, and then it also said download the previous file from November something, and that file, that link actually worked and downloaded the shapefile.
Okay, well, if that one works, then use that one. But yeah, as long as you're downloading this shape file and not a GeoJSON or KML, even though you can use that for Geoda, we're just gonna focus on keeping all of this data being the same data type.
And also, Doris, it looks like the previously generated file is just from yesterday, so there shouldn't be too much
Okay,
updated there. And just to report back, I am also getting file generation failed on the new download.
okay.
But the November 15th file is downloading fine for me.
Okay, because yeah, this was interesting because this was not there when I tried this last time. But I will, so how many people, I'm going to raise their hands, were able to download that shape file based on the download file previously downloaded? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it seems like people, thank you. So yeah, like this is also something you should be aware of. Like one thing might work one way and then it doesn't work the same way when you try it. So now we're going to go back. I'm going to go back to the open government. And then, so we're going to do, now we're going to download foreclosure data. And so as we did before, we can type in foreclosures 2020. Again, I'm just, again, I'm giving you time so you don't have to do it right at the same time. And it shows to be a shapefile. And I'm going to click download. As you can see, the download button for this works, but the one for the township, it was a little different. So FYI. So now that I have my two data, I am going to go ahead and go to my downloads and move the foreclosures and townships into my data folder. So that is the the pre-step before the 5 steps. So I'm working on the Mac. So you would just go to your Geoda and click on it. And you can just put your hands down now into the next step. But so I started Geoda up and hold on, let me close it up. Here we go. That's what I wanted to do. So it's actually a very light, like it's not like takes up a lot of room right now when you start it up. You have your toolbar here and then all your options up here. So the first task we're going to do, and again, I'm going to show it first and then you can do it, is loading data into Geoda. And I see a question. Okay, thank you, Molly. So the first thing we're going to do is we open Geoda and we're going to click on File in new. So the nice thing about Geoda is that you can drag the files into the system, or else you can just click and, click the folders, click shapefile, and then find your way. So, so I already am here. So the first thing that I want to do is I am going to go to my, because that's not the right one, but I'm going to go to my, desktop data and my township data. And with a shapefile, the shapefile is made up of 5 files. That's why I wanted to really focus on doing shapefiles for those who are not familiar. And each file has a different type of attribute. So like the .prg is projection, and .dbf has the database info. So we're gonna, but the shape, the .shp is what brings them all together. So I'm gonna click open for the township. And it's very important to make sure the order is right in Geoda. Is really like, that's one of the little quirks of Geoda. You have to have an idea of what you're going to work on. And again, if you mess it up, you can always just reopen the program or start a new workspace. So I'm going to click open, and then I get this. And then it brings in the map of the townships. And you can click to isolate one, or you can double click to have them all in display. So now we are going to bring in the foreclosures of 2020. So again, what we're going to do is actually click on this little plus here called the add map layer button. And it brings us back to a familiar window. So you can either drag the .shp file to here, or you can click the little folder. I personally prefer just doing this because it essentially tells you, like it highlights out what needs to be brought in. And I'm going to click open, and it shows me the 2 layers here. It shows me the townships and the foreclosures. The problem is that I can't see the foreclosures, but it's really not a problem because, as with many GIS software, it works on a layer. It works on a layering model. So whatever's on top is going to be displayed first. So what I'm going to do is drag the foreclosures up here, and I can now see the foreclosures on here on the map. And I can double, yeah. So let's see, you can change the fill color. I right clicked, change fill color, and I'm gonna give it a yellow, so it's more easily seen. So hopefully that's more easily seen. You can also turn these off if you don't need them with the on-off switch here. So you can do that for the foreclosures and the townships. So this is the end of task number 1. I will pause the share, and I will give people 5 minutes to do this. I'm also going to pause the recording too. Essentially join this foreclosure information to the townships. And the only way you can do that is based on you putting in the townships first and then the foreclosure second. And so the townships is that foundational data that's going to be the data that everything's going to be joined to. And then another thing that we are going to do is a spatial count. So let's just say we're looking at this township. We are going to do an operation in which we show how many of these foreclosures are in this particular township. So I'm going to first do the spatial join, and then I'll do the spatial count. So the way I do a spatial join is I go to Tools, Spatial Join, and then it says, please select the map layer to apply the spatial join to the current map townships. And this is why it is important that what you load first is going to be the one that the analysis is really based off of. So you're going to do this to that. So it gives you no choice. It says townships, and we only have foreclosures as our data. So we kept it really simple here. So we're going to click spatial join. Now we have all of these variables in the join variable. I can show you really quickly. Oh, actually, I can't actually. Let me just get out of here. But here's the township table. And so essentially we're going to join another piece of information here from the foreclosures. So let me go back to tools, spatial join. Some do a spatial join, and we're going to join the total property value. So you also have a list of join operations that you can do. And right now it says total pop val sum. We actually don't want that. So what you can do if you make a mistake, you can just click this back button. And we want the actual median value of the total property value, because we want to prevent the influence of extremely high and low values on this particular statistic. So now that we have pop value, total pop value, p-value highlighted in median, now we can click that arrow going to the right. And now we have the total pop value and the median. So I'm going to click OK. And I am going to change the variable name to something more meaningful. So med, P-R-O-P, V-A-L, and I have underscores between the med and the prop and the val, and I am going to click OK. Now it is showing me the median property value of this area, and the nice of this whole St. Louis County. And the nice thing about Geoda is that, and this is pretty common in other GIS softwares too, is that you can click on the particular record and it highlights the map.
Excuse me, Doris.
Yes.
We have a question from the chat. If you have forgotten, is there a way to check which was loaded first?
Yes, it will be here. You will know what is loaded first because of what was, you will know that you loaded map townships first. And if you make a mistake, I would just go to file. I would just like create it. I would just create one new. I mean, I don't really know personally right now with what I know of Geoda, a way to undo that. So, because even if you delete the townships, it's still going to show up. So I just say that really make sure you do that first. Like, just make sure you put your, like, I always put my polygons in first of whatever region I'm working at, then put your points. That's pretty much what I do with Geoda, is polygons, then points. It's a little finicky, but yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yes, and is the way then to, so mine are loaded backwards, and so do I just close out the window and then just do a new file? And then it'll
Yeah,
open a new window?
just close out and create a new one. That's right now, that's what I usually do. Because I have tried to like get rid of the files and put them in, and it didn't work for me because it still has this map.
Okay.
So yeah, just create a new map.
Okay.
And once you're, let's see how many people raised their hands. I know you are restarting.
Doris, I have a question.
Mhm.
Can Geoda do spatial joins between any type of data, or do you have to have a polygon and a point data?
Well, a spatial, if you want to do spatial joins with non-spatial data, you would have to do a join. And since this is a spatial software, it has a particular spatial, like geostatistical analysis software. It, you know, it,
Oh, I meant more like, can you use lines instead of points, or can you do the spatial join between two polygons as well?
Yes. I just really think you have to think about the purpose of your study in terms of that. Yeah, but you can.
Thank you.
So yeah, just keep that in mind, that like your data will change based on your study. So this is just one example of how to use Geoda. And usually when I've used Geoda for me, when I use Geoda for like a polygon, what I do, like I usually have my polygon with all the attributes that I want anyway. And what I usually do is like all of that information is there. And then I'm just running some kind of like spatial something here, which I'm not going to go into, using the values. But again, my study precluded that, oh, all I need is this because I have all the housing values in my shapefile. So I don't need anything else. So, you know, it really just depends. But yes, you can. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I think it's really important to realize, you know, knowing the appropriate data for your study. So I am going to move on to the spatial count if there's no more questions. So for the spatial count, it's the same thing. You're going to go to tools and then spatial join. But the spatial count is mentioned by default, so that is great. So we click OK. This name needs to have a more meaningful name. So we're going to say spatial count and click OK. And it was pretty quick. So, but it shows you how many foreclosures. So when I did click on Ferguson, like it says there's 35 foreclosures. So 35 of those yellow dots in that area. And then say in like Jefferson, there's one. So this is a good way to just aggregate your points within that shapefile. So I'll give people a few minutes for that before moving on to number 3. So once you're done, if you could please raise your hands, that would be great. And I'll pause recording. Pause recording. Zoom recording, and we'll move on to the third step, which is creating a new variable. So if you accidentally exit out of this, you can click the tables icon here, and it gets you back to your table for your townships. And we have, again, the median property value and the spatial count. So this sums up to being 418 foreclosures total, which you can see here. And the foreclosures underscore 2020 layer information. So what we're going to do is divide the spatial count of these foreclosures per township and see like which one has the highest percentage. So we're going to create a new variable. So what we're going to do is we open up the table. So again, you can click this. Now we're going to go to table and then click add variable. And so we're going to give this variable a name. Let me move some things over, of FC rate. Oops. So foreclosure rate. And then we're going to keep everything the same. You can talk about like the types of numbers. We want a real number because we want what's after the decimal point, and it's definitely not a string, and we definitely don't want an integer. So you can either do like, you can just keep everything default or insert, and they'll say like where you can insert it. I'm going to just keep this the same, but you can also specify what to have, you know, where you want to put it. And then the how many decimals, we'll keep that the same. We'll keep everything the same. So now we have this FC rate. So the reason why I wanted to show you it that way, this way, because, you know, sometimes when we do GIS analysis, we just quickly get it done and we're like, oh no, I really wanted that at the end of the variable. But the good thing about it is that you can just drag it all the way to the end. So then there's no problem there. I saw some hands raised. Are there some questions?
Just forgot to put mine down.
Oh, okay. So now that we have this FC underscore rate at the end, makes it very easy to see. Now we are going to right click on this, and then we are going to click calculator. So again, as I mentioned before, this is a geostatistical software, you know, hands down. Like that is the primary purpose of this. That's why you see univariate. That's why you see bivariate, spatial lag, which that's a whole workshop in itself. We're not going to talk about that. You have rates, and then date and time, but we're going to keep it simple. And we're going to just click the bivariate tab. So what we're going to do is do variable. And then after that, we are going to do the, hold on one second. We are going to do the spatial count. Then we want the operator to be divide. And then the variable or constant, there's 418 foreclosures total. So we're going to do 418. But we have this. So again, you don't need to do anything. You need to click. You can do, I think you can do that. Yeah, FC rate equals spatial count divided by 418. So you have this spatial count divide 418. And then we click apply. And then this is the percentage of foreclosures per township out of all. So we can do all sorts of things here with that. So I think like once we're done, if you could because this is the third task, if you could just raise your hand and let me know when you are done. So the next task is that we have, let me click the table. We have our information here for the FC rates. Now we're gonna create a like a quantile map that's gonna allow you to show the rates across geographic boundaries by color. So we made a proportion because you always have to do that when you are creating this kind of map, this quantile map, but it's also choropleth map too. You can't use raw numbers because it skews everything in terms of like looking at your map and making certain inferences. So what I want to do first is get out of this. And then after that, we are going to click the map. And then we are going to create a, there's so many ways you can create maps. You can do natural breaks, equal intervals, custom breaks, etc. Again, that is a decision that you need to make based on the data that you have. But we're gonna just do Quantile Map today, just for demonstration purposes. So I clicked on 5. And so then after that, I'm going to click on the FC rate. And then I'm going to click OK, and it pops up another map. So this is another thing about Geoda that, again, going back to the whatever you load the first is going to be the one that everything is done based on. So the quantile map was created based on the FC rate and the data, the township data. So we can do some other things with this as well. We can actually add a base map, which is actually a new feature of Geoda that when I first was introduced to it, it was not there at all. And I just find this to be a very useful upgrade to this software. So what I do to get this in, I can click base map. And then you have all of these type of options here. I'm going to choose Carto Light. And so now we have the base map, but the problem is that the base map is a little bit, it's too much for me. So I am going to click on the drop-down menu here and click on change map transparency, and kind of like, you know, like it was like too transparent for my taste. So when you have this transparency dialog, you can have it be completely opaque or completely transparent, but I'm gonna move it up a little bit to 0.45. So I am able to see the underlying base map, but then I can also see my polygons as well. And then I'm going to click close. And you can see that I can, like, everything's connected. So if I click on these townships, like if it will click on the corresponding one here. And so to get out of it, you just click somewhere else. You can add they turned off the foreclosure data when we did create this map. So we can move this up, we can turn it back on, and we can have our foreclosures here. And I'm not too particularly fond of that color. Let me see 1 second. So since I am not fond of that color, I can click the base map, the layer file again, and then change my fill color to something. I'm going to choose this licorice, this in the crayon option, choose licorice. And now I have some black points instead. So I'm going to. So the question that was posited to me was about using the ESRI base layer map. So if we were to click on the base map icon and click ESRI, because usually when you use ESRI, you have to sign in before using one of their products. So let's click on World Street Map. Well, there you go. Luckily, you do not have to log in at all. And then we can try some other options here, such as World Topo Map. I personally like this one the best. And then the other option here is World Terrain, which really has no meaning here for me. So we'll go back to the World Topo Map. So you do not have to sign in to ESRI for this. And again, this is a new feature of Geoda. The old version used to not be like this at all. I'm going to go back to Carto and go back to light. And if you could raise your hand so I can see how many people are finished. Let me check the chat. Loaded base map Carto light and current map dim. But no base map visible.
Right. And I've tried loading other base maps options and the same thing, the current county township shape files, everything dims as if just like yours does when the base map loads, but there's no base map visible.
So if I get rid of this, this is no base map, and I click there's Carto light, and then there's a base map. So you're not seeing a base map load?
No, the like, yeah, just it's not, it doesn't. It does, everything else reacts. I mean, I can clear, so it dimmed as if there's a transparency layer on it now, but there's no background base map. And if you tap on a county, it shows up on both maps, just like on yours.
I have a
highlighted. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, because that is new to me, because I did it with both of them. I'm not really sure what's going on there. If you could, we can look at it after, because we're almost done actually, and we can see what's going on, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
Okay,
no.
we'll work on that after I'm done with this wrap up the workshop. Oh my goodness, sorry, that was weird. Okay. So another thing that I like about Geoda that was a major, let me change my transparency back to 0.5.
Excuse me, Doris.
Mm-hmm.
Before you move on to the next section, we have another question about base maps here. Can you only add one layer of base map?
So the purpose of a base map is to be the one foundational layer. So you would not like for hold on, sorry, I just want to see chat. You usually don't add two layers of base maps. There are some times in which you will, but not with this particular program. I could see it being used for, say, like an ESRI product where you're using something called a story map. But in this particular, and then also there's something called Social Explorer that maybe you can do that, but you cannot add 2 layers of base maps with Geoda. Yeah, because it's just, you're just showing like what's under it. But a good example of like base maps is just showing like, for example, if I want to click really quickly, where is it? This world terrain. A lot of people like to do, I know this is like off the subject, but I'll bring it back real quick. They'll have a terrain base map, and then say they might have like, say, a topo map. And then like in some mapping products, there's this swiping function that allows you to see the topo, you know, like you can swipe and see the like the topo base map, and you can see the relief. So you could kind of see, oh, okay, this area is hilly. So that's the only time I would really use that kind of map, those 2 maps together. So finally, we are going to talk about the final task, which is saving your map as an image. So again, this is a huge upgrade from when I started using Geoda years ago, because it used to be, I would just export the image and that's it. That's all I could do. But you can actually do more now with Geoda and add some basic cartographic elements. So I right-clicked on my map, and then I click Save Image As. And oh, how do you add? I'm sorry. I just saw a question. How do you add back in the foreclosure points again? Okay.
I figured it out, actually.
Okay.
Thanks.
So to create a map, you right click on the interface, save image as, and you have your legend, which you used to not be able to have. There used to be like not this option really to do this kind of like moving around of the legend and stuff like that. So I just found this really nifty. And then you can also increase or decrease your base map. So just decrease it a little bit and then move this legend in a little bit. It is kind of hard to click, but let's see. I can resize the image where I don't want the legend to overlay on the image. I'm gonna do that right now. Just slightly make it bigger. Just a little bit more bigger. Okay. So I am finished with this. And then you have the option to use transparent legend background, or, maybe you don't need it. Maybe, again, when I use Geoda, I would use it for, say, I'm going to do for me, like if I'm doing a lot of geostatistical analysis, I would need to include figures. I might just need the figures itself. So I might not, really need much. So I think Geoda is well suited for these kind of tasks. And then I'm going to click save. And then you have your dimension settings. And then I am going to put it in my data folder and keep the I'm going to call it foreclosures. STL_county_foreclosures. And I'm going to click save. And if I click my data folder, here is my file. So just really quick way of getting your data out there for geostatistical analysis. So I'm going to check to see if there's any questions. Can we change the color ramp? Let's see. So you can change the fill color for each of them. But I usually, yeah, you can change the for each category if you want, but I would probably, it seems like that there's like let's see, tools, because I really didn't explore that, to be perfectly honest. I will admit that. But I think you would just have to change the individual ones. And personally speaking, there's different types of visualization rules in terms of that. So if you are wanting to change the color, I would recommend using the Color Brewer website that will show you some good color options for displaying your data. So if you want to change it to like a blue, you can pretty much, yeah, you can know like what colors to use best for that. So again, this is a very, visualization is, again, not the emphasis. I mean, it is, but it's more geostatistical type of stuff. So yeah, no problem. So those are the 5 steps with Geoda that I wanted to go over. So I hope this was helpful. And again, if you're doing some heavy geostatistical analysis, I would highly recommend you take a look, because I will say out of the open source tools, like I would, you have to know what task you want to use. So like if I wanted to do like showing something, just making a bunch of maps, I would probably use QGIS, but if I want to do some HESVs geostatistical analysis, I would use Geoda. So now I want to talk about additional resources. So I want to talk about WashU resources. So we are here, data service, a resource that you can use. So if you have any questions about open data or open like GIS software that's open source, feel free to contact any of us on the team. If you are at the med school, we have counterparts at Becker Medical Library that can help you with some data related things, and open. They will probably be more adept to deal with open source health data, or just kind of like biometrical stuff like biostatistics, things like that. We also have a research studio. So we actually, I'm not sure if we have Geoda on here, but we do have QGIS, we do have RStudio, we do have some Python. So you're able to use these various packages. And if you need any help and you like, oh, I need help now, look at the times of our data services help desk. We have help desk hours between 2 to 4 on Monday and Tuesday, and between 10 to 12 on Wednesday and Thursday. And then every month we have a data users group in which sometimes the subject is open source data. So feel free to find more information about this on our data services website. We also have tutorials on our research guides. So we have a GIS guide in which we do have some tutorials using QGIS. We have tutorials using R. And then we also have our data literacy guide, because it shows you how to effectively visualize, effectively analyze, visualize, and make arguments with your data. And this workshop, along with all of our workshops from Geography Awareness Week, will be posted on our data services workshop video library. And here are some public resources. So you can download QGIS from these QGIS, like all of these things that I mentioned, you can download from these websites, and some of them might take a little bit more work than others, but all the instructions are on the website. And one nifty book I would like to talk about, because I saw that they're doing an update. There's a book called Geocomputation with R, which is pretty much a very extensive reference on how you can use multiple packages in R to do, they call it geocomputation, but essentially some GIS task.